Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Livingston. I'm president of Lewis University, and I'm excited to be back. We missed last week due to some scheduling conflicts, but Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost, and I are back in studio, excited to have another conversation from Stritch, and really excited that the semester is moving along as well as it is. We'll talk a little bit more about COVID and some other things, but just some notes at the beginning here that I wanted to, some exciting things are happening on campus. This past weekend, there's a national meeting of the Association of Catholic Colleges and Universities. This is about a little over 200 Catholic and colleges and universities around the country, and they give out one award each year for lifetime achievement. This is to one person who has influenced Catholic higher ed over their career. And this past year, all of these universities got together to honor Brother James Gaffney, our former president, by honoring him with the Theodore Hesburgh Lifetime Achievement Award. It was really an amazing event and an honor to both Brother James' career and all that he's done for Lewis University, as well as an honor for Lewis University to be recognized among these 220 universities as a place that Brother James made such an impact on, but that Lewis makes an impact both here in the United States and globally. Second thing I want to mention is on February 6th, we had 9 nursing students and 6 of our faculty who volunteered at the Kendall County mass vaccination site for senior citizens. They vaccinated almost 2,000 people, all over 65. Really a wonderful story. We are, as I think many of you on this call know, you've heard from Chris many times and, heard from Nancy Ryland, who heads up our COVID response in many ways, that we've been doing testing. We've cooperated with IDPH, with Will County Public Health, with OSCO to do some vaccinations. But this is just one more example of our students who are trained as health professionals and our faculty going out into the community and making a difference. So congratulations and thank you to all of you who are a part of that. We have a few upcoming events that I want to mention. Tonight, from 7 to 8:30, there's an interfaith forum titled From Fear to Compassion. I'm excited to be a part of that tonight. I'm going to introduce one of the speakers. But this issue of interfaith dialogue is really important to us as a community, but also important, I think, to our world as we, are confronted with so many issues on a global scale and things that are happening in our own country in which people tend to, there are certain people who can be driven by fear of the unknown. And so the more that we can understand people of other faiths, the better off we are. So I'm looking forward to that, From Fear to Compassion, tonight from 7 to 8:30. On February 13th, the 6th annual, that's this weekend, 6th annual LaSallian Colloquium. I'm also excited to be a part of that on Saturday, as an attendee. Really excited to hear about what's going on in the LaSallian world and the ways in which we drive our mission as a LaSallian University forward. Also on February 18th, an anti-racism allyship and action event is happening on virtually again on our campus around being an anti-racist campus and the ways that we as Lewis University can participate in that and be an ally to those who are suffering from racism in our society, the ways in which institutional racism impacts all of us. A couple quick notes, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sint about athletics. Our swimmers are currently, as we speak, swimming in the GLVC championship. We were in, I think I should have looked this up again. I looked at it last night. 6th place, is that right? 6th or 7th place after after yesterday's events. And today, our swimmers continue as they move towards those through the different heats and towards the championship events. Men's basketball and women's basketball both play tonight against William Jewell on campus. Again, no fans, but please, you can log on and watch those contests. Women start at 5:30, men at 7:30. Both teams, we really need you to cheer them on. If you see any of our basketball players in kind of the hallways or they're in your classes, the women are currently in 4th in the standings, the men in 7th. We're just a couple weeks away from the GLVC tournament. So we want to hold on to those positions. So every win matters at this time in the season. Women's volleyball play Friday night against Illinois Springfield. They are undefeated so far this season and ranked nationally, and we're excited about that. And then the men's volleyball matches this weekend have been canceled due to positive COVID. But I also want to point out that they are ranked 4th in the country. They did have that tough loss to Ohio State, but came back last Saturday and beat them 3-0 after they lost a tough 3-1 match on Friday. So athletics continues to happen. I know there's an art show that's opened up. You can also get online and view that. So lots going on campus. So Chris, maybe you can do your little intro and then we'll introduce our guest.
Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. And it is great to hear all of those things that are happening on our campus and in our community. And that's 1 week of stuff that you just talked about. And as you said, there are many things that are not mentioned there that are happening on campus. So it's great to be in the thick of the spring semester right now. I think I'll begin today by just giving a couple quick points related to COVID-19 and some real summary of the email that I'll be sending out this afternoon as usual. To clear up a little bit of confusion, we have been a site for vaccinations on the Romeoville campus, both through OSCO and potentially some other partners in the next month or so. Will be on campus providing vaccinations to individuals who are in the qualifying category of 1B, 1A, 1B, or 1C soon. But we, as a university, are not providing vaccinations or making appointments for those vaccinations. We're really a partner and a site that's working with these companies, but we're not really providing any of the technical information. So if you are interested in vaccination, my email and our website does refer people to the county health departments that you live in and so on in terms of finding out more information about vaccinations. Along those same lines, it's really great that many members of our community through their various qualifications are getting vaccinated. This is a reason for me to remind everyone that the CDC still recommends that all of our safety precautions should be used, even for people who have been vaccinated. So wearing face coverings, keeping a distance, and washing hands especially are the 3 things to remember. This will be the case all through the semester, I predict. It will not change. And so please remain vigilant, as the virus is still certainly around us, in our nation, in our community, and we need to be vigilant even as we're getting lots of good news around the decline of COVID-19. To that end, I wanted to just remind people that there are, if for any reason someone is on campus without a face covering, they forget it in the car, they lose it, drop it in the snow or whatever, and you don't have a backup, there are many places on campus to go and get a face covering, and please feel free to refer other people to those places as well. So the dean's offices in the academic building and the student activities office especially are great places to go for backup face coverings if you find yourself without one at any moment during the time on campus. So I think that's all I have to say about COVID, unless you have any questions.
No,
President
the only thing I'll say, because
before.
you just got done talking about, so if you can show me on screen,
I have
started wearing a double mask because the CDC is saying that is a good idea. So I have my under mask, but then I have my Lewis mask on the outside so that I can be, promoting Lewis, but at the same time double masking. So, something to consider as
Great
people look to, how do we, because I do think the numbers are great. Numbers on campus are are good
Yep.
in general, and the numbers in Will County and actually in the state of Illinois and around the country have been positive. But we have to be vigilant, as you said, and I think that's it's a really important way in which we can kind of benefit from some restaurants opening up and some more ability. And we're probably 4 weeks away from some change in weather that'll be really nice for all of us. But let's not mess it up where we end up in a situation where we get another big spike, because I think we're not on a glide path. We're on a constant, kind of struggle with vigilance, and that is really the view, even though the numbers look great.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I love that, Lewis, on the outside doubling up idea. We should do some photo shoots with that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to shift gears a little bit to the theme of the day, which is sustainability broadly understood on campus. So last week we talked a little bit, or announced the installation of the solar array that people have been seeing on campus. Again, it's set up, it's plugged in, it will go live any minute or any day now, over the next couple of week or so probably. It will supply 1.2 million kilowatt hours of annual electricity, which we estimate to be about 15% of our overall electricity usage on campus. So that's really exciting, and we really hope that it's the beginning of more similar endeavors like that, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to invite our guest, Professor Jerry Kavouras, chair of the biology department, onto campus. Onto the show with us today, because he has been a really big force in our sustainability efforts on campus for many years. So I'll just say welcome, Jerry. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Great to see you. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to say one other thing before asking you any questions, which is another piece of news that we forgot, or didn't forget, but we neglected to mention in December, which is that Lewis was again selected by the Princeton Review as a green campus. And Jerry, we might ask you a little bit about how that process works. I think you probably know about that. And this has been true for a few years, but it's a really great honor and a distinction that, through a lot of different criteria that range, from sustainability efforts to curricular efforts to co-curricular efforts on campus, our Lewis University has been identified as a green campus. So again, lots of little details go into making up such a distinction, and Jerry, thank you for all of your contributions to that. Before we ask you too much about sustainability, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about your time at Lewis. How long have you been at Lewis? I said you're the chair of the biology department, but maybe what's your research specialize in, and what are you working on right now?
Okay. I've been at Lewis for 16 years. As you said, I'm a professor and chair of the biology department. I teach classes, general biology, microbiology, ecology. I also teach classes for the environmental science program, like conservation biology, limnology, to name a few. Research interests. So my research interests are all over the place, but the main theme that always comes through is microbiology and some ecological focus. Two current projects that I'm working on. One is looking at disease ecology, using Daphnia, which is a water flea found in aquatic ecosystems. We're looking at how the transmission of a fungus, Mechnicoia bicuspida, can be influenced by an invasive species, the quagga mussel. And this does relate back. My PhD thesis was involved with biofilms and zebra mussels. So this kind of brings me back home. This project is a collaboration with the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Dr. Carla Caceres. We received an NSF grant to begin this collaboration, and it's continued over the last 5 years. So that's one project I'm working on. Another project that I'm working on that's related to the environment, and again, soil microbes. And that is through the International Lasallian Advisory Research Group, ILARG, myself and Dr. Rosalina Gonzalez from LaSalle University in Bogota, Colombia, have established a collaboration over the last 2 years. Initially, it started because the Colombian government was going to begin using glyphosate, a herbicide, in national parks to control illegal crops that were grown there. And so she wanted a method to be able to study the impact of glyphosate being continually used in national parks. So that's where, through our Lasallian network, we were introduced, and we began a collaboration, her with her experience in chemistry and chemical engineering, and my experience with microbes and environmental monitoring. We developed a methodology that works for them to monitor soil productivity. And currently, we're looking at implementing and expanding that to mining. I guess they use a lot of explosives in mining, and she wanted to explore how, the soil could be contaminated by can be contaminated by the explosives used in the mining industry. So that's a quick description of some of the current projects going on.
Or maybe you could comment on what I find really interesting. I mean, so many of our faculty do this, but it seems to me that what I hear you is these two aspects that are so important to us as a university: the kind of local and then the global. And when I think about local, I just finished a book, it was last summer, on the Great Lakes, and a lot of it on these invasive mussel species and the issues around the Chicago River and its dumping into the Mississippi, and the issues of rivers that flow into Lake Michigan and out of Lake Michigan, and that's one of the ways that the mussels right now, the Great Lakes, have been relatively okay, but it's the canal that brings these big ships in that ends up putting these mussels. And I don't want to get too far into this, but I guess I just want to say what I like. It's great that your research is about something that I'm not sure all of our students and even employees understand, that we are right next to one of these potential feeders, I mean literally right next to, as a campus, that could have these invasive mussels harm a whole Great Lakes ecosystem that really is vulnerable to this kind of stuff. So I don't know if you want to, I mean, you don't need to say anything more about that, but I just find it interesting that you're working on stuff in partnership that are impacting Columbia, and you're working in partnership with something that's impacting Lockport and Chicago.
Oh, sure. I'd love to say a couple things. So when I first came to Lewis, the Asian carp was a big news story. There is an electric barrier fence built there by the Civil Corps of Engineers to prevent the carp from getting into Lake Michigan. They have been detected there in Lockport, but the electric barrier so far has been preventing them from going further into Lake Michigan. If they got into Lake Michigan, it would be a very serious problem. For those of you not unfamiliar, the Asian carp was a fish we brought over to control algae growth in fish farms. And when the flood occurred in 93 or 94 in the St. Louis area, some of those fish got out and got into the Illinois River, and they slowly began traveling north. And now, because of the way the Chicago River, the flow of the river is reversed, these fish can get potentially into Lake Michigan and then the rest of the Great Lakes and cause a big problem. So when I got here, that was a very big news story. You don't hear about it as much anymore. There have been many efforts to control it. As far as the zebra mussel, that has spread to, every major waterway east of the Mississippi. And currently the quagga mussel has been replacing it through the Great Lakes and in many areas. One little trivia fact, the Michigan Biological Station had done some studies and looking at the bottom of Lake Michigan, and they were trying to predict what the composition, what the structure would look like. And when they started probing it with cameras, they found that they predicted correctly, but what they didn't realize was that it was infiltrated by quagga mussels. So you have large trillions of these invasive mussels in the Great Lakes. And what they're slowly doing is changing the food web of the Great Lakes, which then could have ramification on commercial fishing and other aspects. So, yeah, invasive species is a little close to home, considering that was a good component of my PhD thesis.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And thank you for the research. I mean, again, we love that our faculty, and I know you and many of our other faculty include students in their research. So, you as an individual are influencing globally our understanding of environmental issues and sustainability. But I really appreciate what you're doing for our students as well.
And before we go off this topic, Jerry, one other maybe quick thing to ask you about is that you mentioned it's fairly common for in the sciences to do collaborative research, but you've chosen or met a research partner in Dr. Gonzalez, through our Lasallian network. And I just wonder if there's any, and that's something we're so excited about, that we're part of this large international community of universities. And this type of collaboration is exactly what we love to see. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you got connected to her and how you how you're managing this relationship. And it began before Zoom, before the COVID-19, I know. So it might be more common now.
Yes, it did begin before our pandemic. I was actually introduced to Dr. Gonzalez and to Dr. Marie Ben Othman from Union La Salle, France, through the International Association of Lasallian Universities. Brother Martin Montoya introduced me to both of them. The group that I mentioned before, the International Lasallian Advisory Research Group, they really are looking at, there's three initiatives that YALU is promoting: sustainability in the environment, public health, and then the third one is education. So they're really looking at, people at Lasallian universities combining their research interests and, collaborating and increase, building strength, strengthening those collaborations to produce research that is impactful in those three research themes. Again, public health, sustainability in the environment, and education. So yes, it's through that association that I was introduced to these collaborators, and there's many people at other faculty at Lewis University who have established collaborations with our Lasallian partners around the world.
So let me ask you a little bit. We have, potentially we have students watching or prospective students watching who might be, hearing about this and this research and this interest and they, care about making a difference in the environment and might want to hear a little bit about the environmental studies major and the other possibilities for studying this work here. So could you talk a little bit about that, those programs?
Sure, I'd love to. So the environmental science program is an undergraduate program. There's two tracks: the ecology track and the sustainability track. So students that are more geared towards wildlife biology, conservation, ecology, restoration, more of what you would call the traditional sciences, natural sciences, move towards that ecology track. But students who might be a little bit more business minded or are thinking about potentially going into careers with regulations of regulatory industry might move and think about the sustainability track. There's lots of flexibility between both concentrations, both tracks. Students that have graduated from the environmental science program, have gone on. We have one alumnus who is currently a professor at Clemson, going up for tenure. We have another one who's an assistant curator at a natural history museum out in Cody, Wyoming, near Yellowstone National Park. We have some that are project leaders, managing projects for companies. We have currently many that are applying to graduate school. They want to, continue their education. Some have gone into law because environmental law and regulations are what they were thinking about. The program itself not only provides you with a background in understanding the issues about the environment and getting a good basis on the science. It also has the flexibility for students to minor or double major in other programs, like if you want to go to law school, the philosophy of law minor might be a great option. If you want to go into communications, in the environment, that might be a great option. If you want to go into business, one of our alumna, she double majored environmental science and business and is currently the director of sustainability at Siemens. So there's lots of options for students and pathways to take after graduation.
Wonderful, thanks. So maybe we can broaden a little bit now and just ask how, and we have many students who are interested in these things who are majoring in other things. And so how do students participate in sustainability efforts on campus? And what are some of those efforts?
Jerry, we lost you, I think, in terms of your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
That's great.
Okay. I think I just double tapped my button. That's what happened. I was going to say, what I started to say was about 12 years ago, Brother James Gaffney established the Sustainability Council, and that created opportunities for faculty, staff, and students to participate in sustainability efforts on campus. The council right now discusses different initiatives and ways for our campus to grow in terms of sustainability. As you stated at the beginning, Lewis was recognized by the Princeton Review as a green college. Lewis has been recognized before locally by the Conservation Foundation for all the efforts on campus in terms of sustainability. The Conservation Foundation noted many of the things at the time, such as our arboretum status, the bioswales that we have on campus, how we promote, the arboretum, native trees, the nature trail. So events like that, reestablishing a recycling program on campus, and the work of all this, the grounds. Dwight DeVries should get a lot of credit. Don Costello and currently Keith Cameron, and then our former sustainability coordinator Jacqueline Boyle, and our current sustainability coordinator, John Lurzak. I mean, I just want to make sure I mention them because a lot of these efforts couldn't happen without all of their hard work behind the scenes. And so for students to get involved, the council is always looking for student representation. But even closer to home is the Student Sustainability Club, led by Carrie Tetlow. The club has many initiatives throughout the semester, and it has a diverse range of majors. It's not just science majors, it's majors in peace studies, you know, humanities, business, across the board. And some of the events that you might see on campus going on, Weigh the Waste was very popular before COVID. Having people understand the importance of, composting and recycling. The pumpkin pitch, where the Sustainability Club works with the Society of Physics students in Will County. They have a catapult where they get to catapult pumpkins after Halloween, to for people to compost, recycle their pumpkins. Currently, some of the efforts that the club are working on, they didn't stop because COVID happened. Carrie and her group are working on a sustainability cookbook initiative, so people can be mindful in the kitchen. They're also looking to set up more efforts with the Fairmont community, a local community, for cleanup events and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities for students to participate in sustainability initiatives on campus and to assist the local communities in their sustainability initiatives as well. Social media pages that people can follow, Lewis Sustainability on Instagram, and then Lewis Youth Sustainability on Facebook. So if you want to find out what's going on and join the club or help out for some of the initiatives, please look there and get in touch with either John Lurzak, our sustainability coordinator, or Carrie Tetlow, the leader of the club.
Jerry, I just want to say, really great, and thank you for that information. I think for our audience, it's really valuable. I guess I just want to say that this is one of the places, there are many places on campus where this happens, but this really feels like a place, as you've described it, where students, staff, faculty all come together around a common issue, and they're really kind of moving the needle. When you think about it some of these things take a long time, but in over a decade, over 5 years, especially over a student's life of being here for 4 or 5 years, they can really see a difference. One of the things that I think is a difference, this has been going on for a while, but now we've kind of changed the way it works, and we might want to wrap up with this set of questions, is around the Come Clean, Go Green initiative. And maybe you could talk about, because this all came through that Sustainability Council, that I am on and you're on and other, John and Keith and others. So the desire to, how do we fund this and make sure it's sustainable as a funding way, and then how can we make a bigger impact on the campus? So maybe you could just briefly, and we only have a few minutes left, but talk about kind of where this started and then what's new this year and what students might expect to see, because I think they're going to see an email or something in their box so that they can kind of participate in this process. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I'd love to. So the Come Clean, Go Green competition began, with the Sustainability Club 10 years ago. Dr. Simone Munch, English Studies, professor of English Studies, this was part of her, one of her big efforts, that great ideas that she had, and it took off. And one of the issues was students were putting together proposals for big projects. And so we wanted to be able to fund those big projects. So what happened was myself and some environmental science students who were part of the Student Sustainability Club, Alexandra Lanuski, Timothy Collins, and Jessica Oliver, they put together a proposal for a student sustainability fee. And this is common on other university campuses where students pay a fee of a few dollars to support sustainability initiatives on campus. And so the goal was that students control how the money would be spent and how what sustainability initiatives would be promoted that year and supported. And so the Come Clean Go Green competition has evolved into something that can promote, support, implement some big changes, some impactful stuff on campus. And there have been proposals that have been put together for this year's competition. Last year, because of COVID, we had to postpone the competition. So we do have some proposals. I don't want to give anything away just yet, but I will say that students will have an opportunity to vote on which proposal or proposals to be implemented in the next year. And so I'm sure the people who submitted are very excited. The proposals center on conservation efforts, increasing conservation at campus, whereas others look at sustainability from the lens of increasing our energy portfolio in terms of renewable energy, or reusing and creating an energy resource on campus from waste products. So there's some really neat proposals, and as you said, there'll be an email in the next month or so to establish, the guidelines for students to vote and express their opinions on which proposal or proposals from their peers should be implemented in the next year using the student sustainability fees.
That's great.
That's
I was
incredible.
very, very excited to see the fund get started. As you say, it's just a few dollars from each student each semester, but it adds up when we have thousands of students that are involved. And we can make an impact. As Dr. Sint mentioned at the beginning, we really feel like we're making an impact this year with the solar array, but we want to keep that kind of momentum moving forward. So, Jerry, this has been great to have this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you took the time. I know you're incredibly busy, like all the faculty are, and trying to continue to manage this hybrid context that we live in. But thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. Thank you for your support of the Come Clean Go Green, as well as all of our sustainability efforts on campus. And I really do appreciate you, the shout outs to your colleagues across campus who really make this possible. So thank you for all that. Chris?
No, thank you, Jerry. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us. So Chris, last comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, I do want to say, it's just hard for me not to say, listening to Jerry reflect on it and just kind of taking a little time to think about this, it's really incredible how complex the topic of sustainability is and how our students are really engaged in it, making a difference. And I really appreciate what Jerry said about the work of John and Dwight and Keith and others who are also a huge part of this effort in terms of the way the campus is actually physically affected by the spirit of this and by the work that's going into it. I'm just thinking of the wild grasses outside of the Arts and Sciences building that I know you can see from your office probably, right? And
I can, and they'll be springing up in 6 weeks.
And we just get used to these things, but this work is really not only happening and making an impact all over the region, but also really noticeable on our campus if you're looking for it. I just want to make one other announcement before we go, which is that we announced, or we are in the Council of Independent Colleges announced on Monday that we are the recipients of about a $300,000 grant over 3 years that is called the Legacies of American Slavery. And the grant will allow us as an institution to be a regional hub for the study of the legacy of slavery in our nation and in our region. And we at Lewis are particularly tasked through this grant of focusing on the legacies of incarceration and of the Great Migration. And our faculty, our students will be able to do research together in the region, in the area, along with many community partners in our local area. There will be performances, there will be conferences on campus among, with other scholars from the area coming in. And we're just really, really excited about it, and we'll be making more announcements about it. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is that next week, next Thursday, we'll be joined by my co-director of this project, who is Professor Tennille Allen, chair of our sociology department. So she will be our guest next week, and we'll be able to focus on that much more in depth.
So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you and congratulations to you and Dr. Allen for all the work. And I know there are many other people, and we'll talk about that next week, but really great work. So it's now my time to wrap this up and say goodbye. But as I wrap this up, let me just say that I think these last two things we've talked about, so sustainability as an issue for us is a deep commitment that we have, and we're going to keep working on that. Issues of being an anti-racist community is something we'll talk about next week. But as you drive in and out of the campus or you look on our website, you will see our values, and one of those is justice. And both of these issues are around our commitment as a Lewis community to being a community that continues to push forward issues of justice, not only on our campus, not only in our local community, but globally. And we will continue to do that. And I'm excited to be committed to that and to be part of a community that really values issues of justice. We hope that you have a really wonderful week, a safe week. Stay healthy and stay safe, and many blessings to you and your family.